It's not grammar, it's not math, it's Professor Grammath's lesson. And today we're going to see the conditionals. So, guys, today my point is to try and convince you that actually trying to see the conditionals as being four mathematical formulas will make life simpler for you. Let me explain. What are the conditionals? Which is the first thing we're going to see together. Then we're going to see together the four rules that constitute those conditionals. And lastly, in order to better avoid them, we're going to see together what are the two traps that are to be avoided. So, first thing first, what you have to remember, what you have to know about the conditionals is that they are sentences that introduce a condition, so that is usually the first part of a condition that is introduced with an if clause. So if you have a sentence that starts with an if, then you know it's a conditional. And usually the second part of a sentence is the consequence of your condition. So you will have sentences such as, if I follow Professor Gramath's lesson, I will have 990 at the TOEIC, as an example. So now, what are the four rules? Here they are. So no panic, no stress. I'm going to explain everything to you. Starting there, you can see on the left column that you've got all the clauses that are introduced with an if, and then all the clauses that are the consequences. And we're going to see together how it works. How does it work? As I said, you've got four formulas. And the TOEIC is going to ask you to build a conditional based on a part of those sentences. So if you remember that, as an example, this part implies this tense, you will always have all the points of the TOEIC. So what do we have to know? We have to know that the simpler it is to build a conditional, the more sure of yourself you are. So basically, there you are very sure of yourself, whereas there, oh God, you are not sure of yourself. Actually, you are regretting what has happened. We're going to discuss that together. So the first conditional is the 0, 1, or the first one, depending on the method that you use. But usually it's built with an if, followed by a present, and the consequence is also at the present tense. What does that mean? That means you will have a sentence such as, if you work hard, then you succeed, which will be translated with, si tu travailles dur, tu réussis, which shows how certain you are, how sure of yourself you are. The interesting thing is that for all of these conditionals, the two clauses can be inverted, meaning that you could have you succeed if you work hard, but it never changes the value of a sentence. There, you're very sure of yourself. The second conditional is also built with a present, but will be followed with a future, which means you will have, if you work hard, then you will succeed, which will be translated with a si tu travailles dur, alors tu réussiras. And already you can feel, I guess, that you are losing a bit of certainty, meaning that between a if you work hard, you succeed, or a if you work hard, you will succeed, there you have not already succeeded. You can still do it, but it's not yet done, it's not that immediate, so you are less certain. Then, moving on, the third conditional is usually built with an if plus the past tense, followed with a would. Why the would? Because would is the go-to model in order to express the conditional. As you know, would being a model, the verb that is going to be after the would is in its base form, meaning that the verb that is after the would is in its simplest form, without to, without an ed, ing. If you've got any doubt with that, I suggest you guys just watch my 5 basics video. What does that mean? That means that you will have a sentence such as, if you worked hard, you would succeed, which would be translated with a si tu travaillais dur, alors tu réussirais. Meaning that there we are wishing but you could work a bit harder, you know. It still can be done, but we are not that certain anymore, you know. It has yet to be done. And the last conditional, the fourth one, is going to follow the law of distributivity. You know, if that one is built with the past, this one is going to be built with the past perfect, meaning the past in the past. What does that mean? That means that you will have the have auxiliary, but in the past tense, hence its name, the past perfect. So if you had worked hard, si tu avais travaillé dur, and already in English as in French, you can feel that a sentence that starts with that is not a good omen. It's not a good thing to say. And why is it not? Then you would have succeeded, or alors tu aurais réussi. And you can feel that it's already too late. You know, it says two things. This person has not succeeded because this person has not worked hard enough. This is why we call it the regret conditional, which can be very useful for part five, of course, of the TOEIC, but also part six and seven. Why? Because if you had to read such a conditional, you would understand, conditional, that actually the person is regretting two things that have not been done. They're working hard and succeeded, as an example. And now, lastly, the two traps that I mentioned concern only the last two conditionals. What are they? This one is pretty simple and is actually good news. Why is it? It's with the be verb. Usually, you know that in the past tense, the be verb goes I was, or he or she was, but not in the conditional, never. And instead, you will say I were, or he or she were. And that shows the difference. There, if you have that, it means that, or conditional, that you have a past tense in a conditional. If I were you, if he were there, if she were there, as an example, then whatever would happen, as an example. So that is a good news. Why is it a good news? Because the TOEIC is going to try and trick you. The TOEIC is going to try and trap you. And the TOEIC is going to suggest you a sentence that says, if you, with the be verb, and then it's going to propose the was tense. You know, you have to remember it's a trap in order not to fall in it. You pick the were form, which is actually simpler. Everything is in were. And you know that you're going to save some time, some energy, and some points, and some good mood, which is always good to have in the TOEIC, you know? So the be verb is to be avoided in the conditional, and the last trap regards the last form of a conditional. What is the last trap? Is that actually I've told you that most conditionals usually starts with an if, but not this one. Why not? Because this one can also be built with a what I call a fancy form. So what is the fancy form? You would have something like had you worked hard, and the consequence part is exactly the same. So that is not going to change. How do you build it? You drop the if and you invert the auxiliary with the person. Had you worked hard, then you would have succeeded. How does it translate? Aurais-tu travaillé dur? Alors tu aurais réussi. And both in English as in French, I think you're aware that not a lot of people speak like that, which is also good news because the TOEIC, because it's an exceptional form, is going sometimes to try and trick you with that form. So what you have to do in order to avoid falling in that trap is that if you notice that you've got a sentence that starts with an had, but does not contain an interrogative form, then you know it's not a question. It's not a question because it's a conditional. It's a conditional that tries to masquerade as something else in order to trick you, but there, knowing that you will not fall in the trap and you will gain some time, some energy, some points, and some good mood. So that's it for you. 4 rules to know by heart. Every time you notice that you've got a sentence that starts with an if, then you try and notice what is the tense that is in this part of a sentence, and then you know by heart that the other tense will fall immediately, and you will have some points. And that was my last conditional. So, guys, now what you have to do is to try and read a lot in order to try and notice them and why and how they are being used, and also do some exercises in order to train and build them even faster to gain some more time, energy, good mood. So that's it for you. Thank you and have fun.